Hi friends, I hope all of you are doing fabulously well. This journey of L&D snippets has been an enriching experience for me. In every episode, I share my perspective about one aspect or one topic related to learning and development. And I do receive lots of your inputs and feedback and comments all the time. That has been a great, engaging, and insightful experience for me. As we continue this journey, today we enter into the 11th episode of L&D Snippets. In the 10th episode, we discussed a very important aspect of learning. In that episode, we actually concluded that learning essentially means change in behavior. If behavior change has not happened, then learning has not taken place. In this episode today, let's talk about how this behavior change happens. In other words, let's discuss how learning happens, because learning essentially means change in behavior. To understand this, of course, we need to go a little deeper into the concepts of neuroscience. All of us know that brain plays a very important role in the learning process. So today, let's understand how this learning happens. Let's understand what are the different steps involved in the learning process or in the learning cycle, and also understand what happens inside our brain as we engage ourselves in the learning process. Inside the brain, there are 4 activities that are performed when we are engaging ourselves in the learning cycle or in the learning process. These 4 steps or the 4 activities are gathering, reflection, creation, and testing. These are 4 important activities that we engage ourselves in. All these activities are performed inside our brain by different parts of the brain. And today we would understand a little more about each of these activities. And that essentially will help us understand how learning happens, how behavior change happens. Now let's look at a graphical representation of the 4 activities or the 4 steps I talked about. So now let's try and understand a little more about each of these 4 steps. The first step is gathering. The sensory cortex of the brain gathers information, data through the sense organs that we have. We have 5 sense organs: our eyes, our ears, the nose, the tongue, the skin. These are the 5 sense organs that we have, and they help our brain gather a lot of information. As we look around, as we take note of something, as we hear something or listen to somebody, as we smell something, as we taste something, or as we feel something with the help of our skin through touch, etc., we gather a lot of information. So the sensory cortex gathers information, data through the sense organs. With the help of the sense organs, we perceive the external world. So what happens next? What does the sensory cortex do after it collates or gathers all the information? It passes on the information to the temporal lobe for reflection. At the temporal lobe of the brain, reflection happens. We reflect on the information we have gathered. We reflect on what we have seen. We reflect on what we have heard. What happened? What we saw? Why this happened? What could have happened differently? Through the process of reflection, we find insights. reflection is absolutely essential for insight formation. And insight formation fuels creativity and innovation. That's why reflection is a very important activity in the learning process. That's where we get the aha moments, we get the insights. Oh, I got it. That's the power of reflection. What happens next? After reflection, the next step is creation. At the prefrontal cortex of the brain, creation happens. After receiving, absorbing, and reflecting on information, brain shifts towards creation of new abstractions in the form of concepts, ideas, plans, etc. That's where creation happens. That's where the learners create their own hypotheses, their own ideas, their own concepts, their own resolutions, their own plans. What happens next? After creation, the next step is active testing. So once you create a new idea or a concept or a plan, you would like to test it, won't you? Yes, I'm sure you would like to. So that's what active testing is all about. The motor cortex of the brain allows you to make your abstract concrete. It allows you to take your mental models or mental ideas into the physical world, into the real world in the form of events, activities. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's where you start performing. And that's where you start doing it over and over and over again. You test your hypothesis, you test your ideas, you test your concepts, and you try and do it over and over and over and over again. So as you do something over and over and over again, as you perform a new task again and again and again, that becomes a habit with you. That becomes part of your character. That leads to change in behavior because you have embraced a new way of doing things. You have adopted a new way of performing activities. That's where real learning happens. So these are the 4 steps in the learning cycle: gathering, reflection, creation, and active testing. These 4 steps are extremely important, extremely crucial in the learning process. So what we learned from this? What did we understand from this? So learning is not just being inside the classroom or just reading or writing. Learning involves many activities. Learning involves watching, seeing, hearing, listening to something or somebody, reflecting, analyzing, formulating your own hypothesis or plan, tasting it, trying it out, performing, driving change in behavior. So learning involves a whole lot of activities. Learning also involves different parts of our brain. Learning also involves engaging our sense organs. Learning also involves engaging our whole body. Essentially, learning is all about engaging our whole being. If we don't engage our whole being in the learning process, we are not going to achieve the objective of learning. That's a very crucial lesson. We as learners need to keep in mind that to a great extent, learning is about the learner, because it's me who needs to remain alert, to take note of things, to listen to things carefully, gather information, reflect on information, create my own ideas or plan, try, test, and perform. If I don't play an active role myself, I'm not going to learn. That's a very important lesson. That's a paradigm shift. I hope from tomorrow onwards, no, from today onwards, we'll make that paradigm shift. We will engage our whole being as we engage ourselves in the learning process. I wish you all the best as you continue your efforts to become great learners. As we discussed today, what as learners we should do, In the next episode, we'll talk about what L&D practitioners can learn from this learning cycle and what they need to do to make sure that they engage the learner in the learning cycle through these 4 steps and make the learning process meaningful. Till then, goodbye, take care.